Australia did not scream, did not riot, did not throw tomatoes. No, they did something colder, sharper, and far more humiliating. They looked at Meghan Markle and Prince Harry and simply shrugged. And sometimes silence is louder than scandal.
It was billed as a women's retreat weekend where you'll meet other women and have so many activities and drink by the pool and spend time with the Duchess of Sussex. Well, turns out she showed up for about 30 minutes and then she split immediately. They were then shacked up with strangers. They paid thousands of dollars for this dumb thing. And needless to say, a lot of them are now furious. So much so that they're demanding refunds.
What happened here, that the girl was drawing and Meghan was fiddling with her jewelry, merching her stuff and whatnot. And the girl put the book away from Meghan. No, you're not gonna touch my book. You're not gonna touch my drawings. Get away, you witch. Yeah, we have this video comparison between 2018 and 2026. And here you can see the big difference between the two. You have actual crowds, you had actual expectation, people. There was a lot of energy back then that is undeniable compared to what is this? Yeah, it is sad.
That is the truth nobody wanted to say out loud. While headlines tried to paint this Australian trip as glamorous, polished, and triumphant, the numbers were whispering something brutal behind the scenes. A Roy Morgan poll of around 1,700 Australians dropped like a silent bombshell. 81% said their opinion of Harry and Meghan did not improve during the tour. 75% said Meghan failed to show them a more positive side. And 87% doubted this trip would help repair Harry's relationship with his father, King Charles III. Those are not just statistics. Those are warning sirens wrapped in percentages.
The reason why it went down well in 2018, Paul, is because the Australian public didn't know Meghan Markle very well. Well, they know her now. And what do they know her to be? A gold-digging grifter.
I love you.
Because backlash is noisy. Backlash gives you something to fight. Protesters can be blamed. Critics can be mocked. But indifference? Indifference is lethal. Indifference means the public has emotionally checked out. And for a brand built on attention, emotion, sympathy, and endless headlines, that kind of silence is terrifying. Australia did not attack them. Australia audited them. Then came the money trail, and this is where the glamorous story began to crack. The Entourage Summit reportedly slashed ticket prices by half before Harry even stepped on stage. Meanwhile, Meghan's Sydney wellness retreat was struggling to fill seats. On the very same weekend in the very same city, Pamela Anderson was drawing attention across town. Different star, same audience, completely different energy, same market, same moment, but two wildly different demand curves. That is not coincidence. That is comparison, and comparisons can be cruel.
They think somehow that Australians are a little naive, a little easy to skin as far as flogging her as ever merchandise. I think she thinks we're, hicks down under that won't see through it all and be just so honoured that she's graced us with her spreads.
Now pause there, because what happened next turned awkward into explosive. This wellness retreat had been sold as an elite experience. Luxury hotel, gala dinner, yoga, sound healing, coaching sessions, a premium atmosphere. But the real headline attraction? An in-person conversation with Meghan Markle herself, the woman whose image was meant to sell the dream, the woman whose presence justified the price tag, the woman people believed would be there as the glowing centerpiece of an unforgettable weekend. And the pricing? Staggering. Roughly 2,699 Australian dollars for standard access, around 3,199 for VIP, which mainly meant a private room instead of sharing with a stranger. This was not a casual girl's getaway. This was premium fantasy sold at premium rates. And when people pay fantasy prices, expectations become dangerous.
You know what? Anyone silly enough to pay this sort of money, I have zero sympathy for. So, whatever.
You've stolen my thunder. Exactly my thoughts. If you are stupid enough to have bought a ticket to sit with that woman for whatever length of time, then suck it up, princess.
Then reality walked in and left early. Reports claimed Meghan arrived Friday afternoon at the Intercontinental. She took part in a Q&A session with organizer Gemma O'Neill for roughly 2 hours. Then, shortly after 7, she reportedly left in a Range Rover to attend a rugby match with Harry while paying guests were still sitting down for dinner. Imagine that moment. Guests expecting a full immersive royal adjacent weekend. Main courses arriving, conversations beginning, and the headline star already gone. That is where whispers began. Then frustration, then fury. Some attendees were reportedly confused. Others were said to be angry. Refund talk began circulating. Whether every claim is true or not, the perception itself became toxic. Because perception is everything in celebrity commerce. If customers feel oversold and underdelivered, the damage is immediate. People don't remember disclaimers, they remember disappointment. And that is the hidden trap here. Maybe the contract only required a short Q&A. Maybe technically every obligation was fulfilled. But marketing sells emotions, not contracts. Marketing sold access. Marketing sold intimacy. Marketing sold a whole weekend aura. If consumers believed they were buying proximity and instead got a brief appearance, then legally tidy details suddenly become reputational landmines. This is why the nickname Megstock became more than a joke. It became a diagnosis. Because a true festival atmosphere survives inconvenience. Fans stay for vibes, community, the moment itself. But if the moment depends entirely on one selfie opportunity, one celebrity appearance, one brush with status, then once that figure exits, the illusion collapses fast. Mud becomes mud. Dinner becomes dinner. Yoga becomes stretching and expensive disappointment. And then came the visuals. Empty-looking tables, sparse seating, clips that raised more questions than answers. Social media can be merciless because it freezes vibes into evidence. One awkward room can undo 1,000 polished press releases. One camera angle can expose what carefully worded statements cannot hide. But the deeper issue was bigger than one retreat. This was supposed to symbolize relevance, influence, momentum. Instead, critics saw something else. A brand trying to monetize prestige while the public quietly questioned whether the prestige still carried weight. That is the dangerous stage for any celebrity empire. Not hatred, doubt. Doubt kills slowly, but it kills thoroughly. And while all this was brewing behind ballroom doors, another moment was about to explode outside on Bondi Beach. A moment so small, so casual, so accidental looking that it would become the most brutal symbol of the entire tour. Because sometimes one stranger with a towel and a book can say more than an entire poll. The Sussex team may have thought the worst headlines would come from ticket prices, refund chatter, or awkward attendance numbers. But no, the moment that truly pierced the image happened under open sky, on warm sand with no speech, no microphone, no statement, and no defense possible. It happened at Bondi Beach, where symbolism can become savage in seconds. On Friday morning, before the retreat drama fully erupted, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry visited Bondi Beach to meet survivors of the December 14 Hanukkah terror attack, a tragedy that had shaken Australia. By all public accounts, some survivors spoke positively about the visit. On the surface, it looked like the kind of compassionate engagement designed to reinforce purpose, empathy, and relevance. But then came a sequence of events so damaging that critics immediately seized on it. Within hours, Meghan's outfit from that visit reportedly appeared on an AI-powered affiliate fashion platform she had invested in. The clothes were listed, and the launch image allegedly showed her at Bondi during the survivor visit. Think about how explosive that looked to critics. A solemn location, a tragedy in the background of public memory, and then, almost instantly, monetized fashion links. Whether intended badly or not, the optics were devastating. In public life, optics often matter more than explanations. Then came the overnight edit. After criticism spread, the image was reportedly swapped for a different photo showing Meghan in the same outfit exiting a Range Rover. Quiet change, silent correction, no dramatic statement, no grand apology, just an edit in the dark. And edits like that often say what words refuse to admit. Someone knew the first image looked terrible, but even that was not the clip people remembered most. No, the image that truly cut through the noise featured no palace, no gala hall, no royal titles, no branding at all. Just a woman lying on a towel reading a book while Harry and Meghan walked past with security. She barely looked up. She did not scramble for photos. She did not gasp. She did not care. That tiny moment detonated online. Millions watched it. Comment sections crowned her the unbothered queen. Others called her a legend. Why? Because in 20 seconds she represented something numbers had already hinted at. The public's fascination was not what it used to be. There they were, escorted across sand with guards and entourage, and the ordinary citizen closest to them treated the whole scene like background noise. That is brutal because it cannot be spun. You cannot accuse a woman reading a book of being a hater. She simply had better things to do. And contrast became everything. Back in 2018, crowds reportedly lined streets and gathered in rain during earlier tours. Energy was real. Curiosity was high. Cameras captured excitement. Fast forward years later, and the mood seemed colder, flatter, drained. Australia had not changed into some anti-royal wasteland overnight. What critics argued had changed was the product itself. The mystique had thinned. waned. The novelty had faded. Repetition had replaced intrigue. Then another clip added fuel. At Melbourne's Royal Children's Hospital, commentators obsessed over a brief 3-second moment where Meghan's expression toward a staff interaction was described by critics as icy. Some called it a death stare. Body language experts rushed in. Former staff gossip resurfaced. Anonymous sources multiplied. Whether fair or exaggerated, the pattern mattered more than the frame itself. Once a public narrative forms, every glance becomes evidence and every pause becomes suspicion. Meanwhile, the official line remained steady. Meghan only committed to the Q&A portion of the retreat. In other words, obligations were met. But again, contracts and emotions are different currencies. If buyers believed they were purchasing a whole immersive celebrity experience, technical fulfillment does little to soothe emotional disappointment. That gap between what was promised in spirit and what was delivered in practice is where reputations bleed. Then came the harsher framing from critics that these tours now looked less like service and more like commerce, less like duty and more like monetized relevance, less like humanitarian outreach and more like branding exercises wrapped in noble language. Whether one agrees or not, that accusation is dangerous because it attacks motive itself. Once audiences question motive, even sincere acts get reinterpreted through cynicism. And hovering over everything was the shadow comparison to King Charles III. As Charles prepared for formal state-level duties in Washington, complete with institutional ceremony and congressional significance, Harry and Meghan were flying commercial after a 4-day trip dogged by polls, refund chatter, empty seat optics, fashion controversy, and viral indifference. Two images of royalty, two very different definitions of influence. That contrast may be the most painful part of all, because this was never just about one retreat in Sydney or one beach walk at Bondi. It was about market value. What is the Sussex brand worth now? What promoter will pay the same next time? What sponsor signs faster or slower? What audience still buys aspiration at luxury prices after seeing this week unfold? Those are the questions that matter in the world they chose. Brands can survive scandal. Brands can survive mockery. Brands can even survive failure. But what brands struggle to survive is measurable decline mixed with public boredom. Hatred still watches. Boredom scrolls away. And Australia may have delivered the harshest verdict possible, not through outrage, but through yawns, shrugs, half-empty rooms, and one woman who never stopped reading her book. Now the story hangs in the air. Because if this was only a rough week, recovery is possible. But if it was a report card, then the numbers are already written. The next deal, the next tour, the next launch, the next attempt to reintroduce the brand to the world will reveal whether this was temporary embarrassment or the beginning of a much longer collapse.